All right, so my text blocking, I got some class input, and it seemed like number 3 was the choice of the class. Now, what are some of the advantages of number 3? It has a top arc, which is fun, and it is behind the image just slightly. So you have this kind of overlap. It activates the space pretty clearly. I'm a bigger fan of number 3, just as kind of like a stamp. But you want to work with your client, you always want to work with your audience. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to crop down to it. I'm not ready to give up on number 3. Maybe I'll have time to do both. We'll see. But I'll just do a quick screen grab of that for posterity. But what I'm going to do is use my crop tool. Actually, just for the good of the class, I should probably grab all of this as a screen grab. And just to indicate, whoops. That these two were not selected. So I'm just going to do a screen grab of these. I'll post that up to Canvas. I do not require you to do text blocking sketches in terms of turning them in, but your posters are going to be so much better if you do them. So it is incredibly helpful. So I'm going to put in that new, and I recommend you do a minimum of at least 3. 3 different ways to integrate your image and your text. Again, it's not about what the text is or the details of how the type is designed. It's more how the text and the image is laid out together. All right, now we get to the next part. So if you look at the directions, the second skill, besides just understanding layout, is how to modify existing typefaces. So what Renata mentioned, defont.com right here, is like a Pixabay for typefaces. So if you click on that, it's dafont.com. There are constantly typefaces that are being downloaded and added. Right? 5,758 of this typeface were just downloaded yesterday. 1,422 of this typeface were just downloaded yesterday. There are so many. So what you need to keep in mind is your favorite of your text blocking. Or your client's favorite. I like that one. The class, my client, they liked number 2. So I'm going to keep that in mind. And now, how can I find something that's close? Well, one thing you can do is on this home page, you can search for different types of typefaces. Remember, fonts are variations on typefaces. So what we're looking at are actually typefaces. You can also just take some of the categories they recommend. But if I look for Renaissance, for instance, because I'm thinking of a Renaissance fair. Let's see if there are any that use that as their name. Not many. And none of these really fit. Right? They don't look at all like my type there. What if I look for modern block? Like modern block type. Nothing. So what if I just look for modern? And I'm going to get a lot. I'm going to get 6 pages, many results on each page. Maybe more than 6 pages. So this is where I can put my text in. Capital N-I-C-O. Capitals are very good for this. I can show it large because it's a short word, it can fit. And then I say submit and show variants. So variants are going to be the font options on these typefaces. So most of these are donated only to be used for personal use. If you ever use them for a commercial job, you need to license this and donate to the author, right? So that is important. This is different than Pixabay. These are not Creative Commons Opens. These are linked with different rights. They're the author's property, and a lot of them are just demo versions, right? So it will indicate when you download them what the actual use is, but we're not even going to do that because we don't have administrative privileges on these computers. What I'm doing is you can see now how I can look here and see things that are useful and close. This is just the first page. Not to use as is, but to use and then modify. This one comes with an italics font version. They'll mostly only be uppercase, but I like to design with uppercase anyway. And it just gets us started. Like, that's pretty nice. I could see modifying from there. That one's really unusual, but not very readable. On and on and on and on and on and on. So I'm actually going to go back to that first page. And the one that kind of spoke to me and was similar to already some of my inspirations was, see if it still speaks to me. This one's kind of nice, actually. This one. So I'm going to do a screen grab of it. I like how it looks very hand-drawn. So I'm going to make it large on my screen and then do Command-Shift-4 and just grab it. Okay. And then any others that I think have something to offer. I think there's only one other near the top. I think it was this one. Moderna. Pretty basic. But I think they have potential for my idea here. Okay, also don't forget any inspirations you find. Like that. That's a nice inspiration. But instead of spending a ton of time trying to find that on font, I'm just going to be customizing my own type. I'll go to page 6 just in case there's something amazing. Nope. Beware of any that are too thin, because those can be really difficult to use as title treatments. And just do screen grabs of the ones. God, that's headache inducing. Kind of cool though. And these are all vectors, but we're going to turn them into vectors for ourselves. But we're going to play with the spacing. It's amazing how many variations there are. Yeah, you don't have to draw your own. We're going to modify from existing. All right, so let me show you what I mean. Now, I'm going to close these. I'm going to crop down to my chosen poster layout. Just because I did it all my sketching digitally. And now I need to go back, check my image size. Right, this is 13 by 20 by 350. So I want to make it this around 16, so I'm going to make it 18 inches by 27. There we go. And then I don't need the number at the bottom, so I crop that out. And I'm going to collapse all of this into one layer. Now I can bring in my spot illustration, my finished PNG, and if it's not finished yet, that's okay. And I can just place it somewhere for the time being and turn it off. All right? Now what I'm going to do is save this as a JPEG. So I save it as a copy to the desktop. Remember to save to the desktop first, guys, because you're often saving things accidentally to the morning person's file. I'm going to save it as a JPEG. And this is my assignment 6 Nico poster JPEG. But this is not obviously the finished poster. This is going to be my text blocking sketch. Right. Now I can close Photoshop. I don't need it anymore. Instead, I'm going to put that, mark it as purple. This is a test file. Bring my inspirations in. And I've got a lot of them, right? Okay, now I'm going to open up that text blocking sketch that I saved as a JPEG. I'm going to open it with Adobe Illustrator because the goal is to get black vector type created by the end of today's class. So we have a little less than an hour to do that. So what do? I bring it in. This is, just to remind you about Illustrator, this is a raster file. It's all pixel based, but it's pixels at a pretty high resolution. So what do? I double click it, and then I dim its image, and I'm going to dim it to about 30% to onion skin it. And I know that this is the border of my poster, right? And I want to make this text work. So there are type tools in Illustrator. I can use the type tool. Just make sure you're doing black fill and no stroke. And you can write type. So I can do Nico. And then I can select it, just like a word processor. And then I can go to Properties. And just like a word processor, I can choose a size that's 12 point. I can make it a lot larger. I'll start at 72 just so you can see it here. And then I can choose the typeface. So many different ones. And if I have administrative privileges on the computer, I can download my own. So I could actually download it from DaFont. And if I have administrative privileges on the computer or operational use, which these computers make difficult sometimes, I could find that typeface in here. The advantage is I can use it like a word processor, and I could play with, like let's say I like this. This is kind of an Art Deco one. I could play with the kerning in between. So watch, I select it all, and then I can play with the kerning right here under Properties. Just like Stranger Things, I can bring the space between the letters together, because I think that looks a little bit better. I can make the first initial, the incipit, a little bit bigger than the others. Have it rise above, right? I could try doing things like force effects. So this has a bold option and a light option. So these are the fonts for this typeface. But doing it all through the computer that way is kind of losing the thread, ultimately. Even though these are all can be turned to vectors. I would turn it into a vector by right-clicking and saying outline. Nope, that was wrong. Create outlines is what I'm looking for, not outline. There it is, create outlines. And then that turns it into a vector for me. that I can modify further.